Welcome back to Maria the Hedgehog Reads Chapter 15 of The Walking Dead Hope. I'm Maria the Hedgehog. Let's continue where we left off, okay? Louis and Clem waited a few seconds before going in themselves, huddled together to cover as little space as possible. Louis kept Clem close to him, making her take the rear. When she was pushed into the side, she glared at him, pursing her lips. I already lost you once, he breathed, shaking his head. I'm not losing you again. At loss of word for word, she nodded slowly and followed him through the herd. They made their way silently through the walkers, pointing out small windows where they thinned out the most. Louis gestured to a large gap on one of the walls, claiming that there was a way out. They rushed to it as a brisk pace, avoiding detection from the walkers. Unfortunately, someone had other plans. Near the opening, something grabbed Clem's arms and yanked her to her lap. She made her best effort not to yelp, whispering, "Louis," under her breath. The freckled man turned on the spot and followed her captor through the walkers. Getting caught up with the two large ones blocked his path. To her surprise, she was thrown into the mud by whoever had grabbed her. Turning around, she saw Myers standing over her, a large gash on his cheek. She stood up weakly, grunting from the effort of moving her sore muscles. Myers cocked his gun, pointing the barrel directly at her stomach. You think you can just walk out of here, huh? He barked, his voice hoarse. Louis finally caught up to them, gasping when he spotted the old man pointing a rifle at his wife. He stepped forward, placing himself between Clementine and Myers. And who do we have here? Asked the old man, a smirk in his face. A boyfriend, perhaps? I'm her husband, Louis retorted, his face contorted in anger, and we're walking out of here whether you like it or not. Is that so? Myers mocked. Looking around, he made a show of pointing out a small number of windows they still had. Well, I don't see your gun, boy, so I guess you have no choice but to stay and have a little chat with me. If you want to shoot her, you're going to have to come through me, Louis shot back, his yell almost completely covered by another thunder cracking through the skies. Lightning lit up their faces. Louis managed to get a look at the man. His beard was shaggy, gray hairs growing in every which direction. Blood from the gash trickled down in his cheek and into his military uniform, staining green with red. His assault rifle was gripped tightly in both hands, its barrel aimed straight at Louis's chest. Myers let out a maniacal laugh, his breath hitching and turning into a cough. Louis stood his ground, protecting Clementine to the best of his abilities. The man composed himself quickly, training his aim at Louis. I don't want to shoot you, boy, he growled. Well, I'm not letting you take my wife again, Louis snapped, stepping forward. Calling his bluff, Myers took the opportunity to shoot. His bullet found Louis's shoulder, making the freckled man gasp and flinch backwards, clutching it with his left hand. Before Myers could finish the job, he heard another gunshot. He heard a second gunshot cocked beside him. His eyes shot up, settling on Clementine. Drop the gun, Javi's deep voice said, venom in his words. Reluctantly, Myers obliged. He threw the rifle onto the muddy ground. Raising his arm slowly, Javier moved slowly toward it, taking it and standing beside Clementine and Louis. The woman took the opportunity to kneel beside her husband, who was still clutching the place where the bullet had gone through. Are you okay? She asked, investigating the wound. Luckily for him, the bullet seemed to have gone straight through. I'm all right, he assured her, offering her a small smile. Just a scratch. We're leaving Myers, Javier barked at the old man, his own rifle trained on his head. It's over. So just like that, you leave us? He barked back, his previous smile disappearing. It was replaced by an intense glare, his eyes boring into Javi. Big man, Javier, come to destroy another community? Didn't you have enough kicking us around of Richmond that you had to come seek us out? You gave us no choice, Javi yelled over the rain, raising the gun when Myers attempted to take another step. Don't make me do this. You can still get out. What's the point? The old man growled, raising his arms and gesturing behind him. Look what you've done. There were families here. Children! Louis's eyes widening, looking up at Javier. The leader of Richmond shook his head, lowering the barrel slightly. You've been living off other communities for years. You've been living off other communities for years. You don't get to play the sympathy card. Myers raised his eyebrows, the corners of his mouth curling up. Is this about that woman? What was her name? He thought out loud, a mocking tone of voice. Kate? Don't you dare say her name, Javi bellowed, raising a rifle again. His hands were shaking from the adrenaline coursing through his body. That was all on you, Jav. He never got to finish the sentence as the bullet went through his forehead, coming out the back of his head. Javier and Louis watched with wide eyes as the man's body crumpled to the ground, turning back to see Clementine holding Javi's handgun. They said nothing as Clem stood up and holstered the gun in her belt. She helped Louis up, smiling at him. I'm sorry, she said, smiling cheekily. I couldn't let him get away after what he did, she added bitterly, looking back at the body of the man who kept her prisoner. Don't sweat it, actually. He beat me to it, Louis assured her with a chuckle. I love you, he whispered, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. I love you too, she said, closing her eyes. You don't taste so good, Louis teased, scrunching up his nose and sticking out his tongue. Now you know how Asim felt that day when we played Truth or Dare. Touché. I don't want to ruin the moment or anything, Javi said, bringing their attention back at him. His breathing was still heavy, and a few stray tears had welled in his eyes. But can we get going? Sorry, the couple said in unison. Clem smiled sadly at Javi, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. The trio trekked the rest of the way to the gap, making sure to avoid the walkers at all costs. The blood and guts on the clothes began to wash off. Javi and Clem took care of the stragglers who got too close to them with their knives, creating a path for them to follow. Once outside, the number of walkers decreased. Clem, Javi, and Louis made their way to the tree line. When they got there, a blur of movement made its way to Clem, knocking the air out of her lungs. AJ clung to her as if his life depended on it. She returned the gesture, squeezing the boy tightly. I missed you, he whispered, his neck buried deep in the crook of her neck. I missed you too, goofball, she breathed, closing her eyes and fighting back tears. Thanks for coming to get me, she said, nodding at the boy. I couldn't let them take you forever, he replied, shaking his head adamantly. She ruffled his afro playfully, earning a giggle from AJ. Oh, you almost forgot, Louis exclaimed from behind them. Clem turned to him, rummaging through his coat, her eyebrow raised. From inside his trench coat, he produced a worn-down cap, its signature letter D halfway through peeling off. A scratch adorned its right side, coupled with the splattered blood on the left. He handed it to her, earning a beam of smile from the woman. Thank you, she mouthed, looking up at it for the first time in 5 days. You're not you without your hat, Clem. And that was Chapter 15 of The Walking Dead Hope, the Walking Dead fan fiction written by Goofy Gomez. What do I think of it? I actually find this story to be really heartwarming. I am very happy that Clem and Louis are finally reunited. Even Clementine with AJ, I am so happy. That got me in my heart there. I almost cried when I was reading through this. I just couldn't fight back the tears. Both the paragraph and sentence structurings are really nicely done. I'm really happy that Clementine is free from the prison. Overall, this chapter is really good, and so far, this story is really amazing. Now, what do you all think of this chapter? Did you all like it or did you not? Feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. And are you enjoying this story so far, or are you not enjoying it so far? Don't forget to let me know in the comment section down below. Well, I'm gonna go make some chamomile tea. Besides, I'm getting pretty exhausted. But thank you all very, very much for watching. This is Maria the Hedgehog signing off. See you next time, everyone. Bye.